You remember I said, what is the most important phrase in a sentence? What is the heart of the sentence? The verb. Then in a sentence, depending on the verb, like for example, if I say John ran, here the verb is so that it doesn't require any further arguments. Arguments is like all the elements that have to appear in the sentence or the clause to complete it. So basically, if I just say ran in English, ran requires the subject argument. So here you have to put a subject argument, which is John. When I put John and I say John ran, then the sentence is complete. But if I say John found, you would feel that the sentence is not complete. So you would say, why is it the case that here you have the verb and then you have the subject, but the sentence is okay, but here you have a verb and you have a subject, but it's not okay? Okay, the answer to this is that there's something about the verb that requires more. So there's something about the verb to find which is different from the verb to run. And that level now, it's here that we leave syntactic territory when we enter semantic territory. So every verb has predetermined semantic requirements. So when in English you use the verb find, you need to have a noun phrase as direct object. So John found the coin, right? Or John found his bicycle. So the framework within which you say how this verb works is called subcategorization or selection. You would say that the verb find selects two arguments. One is the subject, or here is the agent, and then the other one is the theme. So what subcategorization does, it clarifies what complements the verb selects because it's necessary. If it were not necessary, it would be called an adjunct. So for example, if a verb is transitive, it requires a noun phrase direct object complement. The selectional requirements of a verb are included with the verb in a standard dictionary. If you look at any standard dictionary, if you look at the verb put, it would tell you that it's transitive. So what does transitive mean? It means it requires a noun phrase direct object. A dictionary, which is not technical, a general dictionary, doesn't directly tell you that, but it shows you that. Here in this Longman dictionary, you see the example, he put the coffee on the table. So by giving you that example, it's showing that put requires the coffee, which is a direct object noun phrase, and a prepositional phrase. So this here, put MPPP, this is subcategorization. This is what subcategorization is. So this is why if I say Henry put the apples in the fridge, that's correct. That's grammatical because the subcategorization, the selectional requirements of the verb put have been fulfilled here. We have our noun phrase, the apples, prepositional phrase in the fridge. But if I say Henry put the apples, if I just mention the noun phrase, or if I just say Henry put in the fridge, the requirements, the selectional requirements of the verb have not been fulfilled. Therefore, the sentence is ungrammatical. So when you think grammar, you think syntax, but here you see that in order to have proper syntax, sometimes you need semantics. This is the interface and the overlap. So let me go into another verb, sleep. Sleep is VI. VI means intransitive verb. As an intransitive verb does not take a noun phrase complement. You can say Mary slept, but if you say Mary slept a dog, here you have more than you should. So you have a noun phrase direct object, which is not required. So you're going against the subcategorization. So do not confuse complements and adjuncts. So what the hell is adjuncts? Adjuncts are optional omissible elements. So these are the keywords, optional and omissible. So I mentioned that if you remove a complement, the sentence will be ungrammatical because the subcategorization requirements would remain unfulfilled. But if you have adjuncts, you see, I know that John won the race. I know that John won. She feels that John can win. I feel. So in all of these, there is a direct object. You see that John can win, that John won, that John won the race. Why? Because the verb know here and the verb feel here require a direct object. Here, the verb feel has not been fulfilled in terms of subcategorization. If I say, I know that John won the race in New York. Here, in New York is an extra piece of information which is optional and omissible. So it's an adjunct. It doesn't hurt if you put it there, but even if you don't, it's okay. But if you do, it's still okay. So here, when you say I feel is not grammatical because the selectional subcategorization requirements have not been fulfilled. If I want to do that, I feel the cold. You see, now they have been fulfilled. Or I feel the cold through the window. You see, if I say I feel the cold, it would be enough, but I can add extra, additional, optional, omissible information through the window, right? So this is the adjunct. So all of the complements that I mentioned so far were about verbs, but complements are not just about verbs. For example, if I say the belief, you kind of might feel that the belief in what? So if I say the belief in free speech, so here the noun phrase, the belief, is a noun phrase, but it selects a prepositional phrase as complement. So I can't just say the belief, I need to say the belief in something. Or you need complementizer phrase, the belief that free speech is a constitutionally guaranteed right. So what is the subcategorization frame for belief is, so this is the underline that shows where the belief would sit. And then it should be followed by PP or CP. Or if I say sympathy, you would say sympathy for what? So sympathy is a noun phrase, then sympathy for the victims of the plane crash, or their sympathy for the victims of a plane crash, their sympathy that the victims were mistreated. So sympathy selects PP but not CP. Are there other categories, word categories that have subcategorization frames? Yes, adjectives. For example, if I say I'm tired, you can ask tired of what? So you can say tired of all this nonsense. Here, tired is so that it needs a prepositional phrase. Now let's go back to verbs. The verb eat. If I say John ate, that would be okay. If I add the adjunct regularly, it will still be okay. John ate regularly. If the verb is intransitive, VI. But the verb eat has two different subcategorization frames. Why? Because if you look at the verb eat in a standard dictionary, you would see that it has multiple senses. It could be that in one sense it's intransitive and in the other sense it's transitive. So when you say eat, it means to have food. So John ate is totally okay. But if you use it in the sense of eating something, then if you just John ate, that doesn't fulfill the subcategorization frame. You would need a noun phrase. You would ask, what did he eat? Then you can say John ate an apple. So in sense 2, when it's transitive, it requires a noun phrase. In sense 1, it doesn't. This is how you actually write the subcategorization. So when you say sleep, sleep is a verb, so the double underscore is the verb itself. But if you look at the subcategorization frame for the verb see, you would see that it's a verb so that when it is used, it needs to be followed by a noun phrase. What about eat? You see, eat has two senses. That's why the MP is optional. Send needs an MP, but it may have a second MP, which is optional. In order to have the proper deep structure, words are extracted from the lexicon. So when you pick a word from the lexicon, your mental dictionary, and use it in a phrase structure, you have to fulfill the subcategorization requirements of the head. So what is the head? It could be the verb or the adjective or the noun. So subcategorization lets you know how to use the head with what proper complement options.